Well, starting off at number 10, the Shanghai tunnels in Portland, Oregon. Portland was one of the most dangerous ports in the United States during the early 19th century, and it was the epicenter of SHANGHAI, a form of human trafficking. It's crazy to think human trafficking still happens today, and tunnels are still the way to do it. According to the local lore, swindlers preyed upon unsuspected men in the local salons, which were often outfitted with trapdoors that deposited the victims directly into a network of underground tunnels. These men were supposedly held captive, drugged, and eventually transported to the waterfront, where they were sold to ships as unpaid laborers, aka slaves. Some worked for several years before finding their way back home. The tunnels are said to be haunted by the aggrieved spirits of the captives who died in the dark recesses behind the city. Random facts: the practice of kidnapping men to work on ships came to be known as SHANGHAI because the ships that were sold to were often headed to East Asia.
At number 9, we have the Fairmont Hotel in Banff, Canada. If you have never been to Banff, it is one of the most beautiful places in the whole world. There's amazing skiing in the winter, and in the summer it turns into a lush green wonderland. If you were a ghost, this would be a paradise to haunt. The Fairmont sits on top of a mountain that looks so regal it could double as the Grand Budapest Hotel. It was built in 1888 and it was the center point to increase tourism in the area, and it worked. But like any old building, this place has adopted some guests that refuse to check out. There are 2 ghosts that are responsible for the majority of the ghost sightings, one being that of an old bellhop. He was the employee of the hotel back in the 70s, and after he kicked the bucket, he decided that retirement wasn't for him. His ghost has been seen throughout the hotel, helping people to this day. Very few people get to do what they love. Why let a little thing like death stop you from sticking to your passion? Another ghost is that of the bride dressed all in white. The story goes that she tripped down a staircase on the day of her wedding and met a grim ending. That is a huge bummer. You're about to make it to the altar and you lose your footing. Oh, that sucks. At number 8, we have the Chinoi Church in Beijing, China. An old mysterious building that sits in Beijing, China. There are several elements to this building that make it an intriguing place for anyone interested in the supernatural. First, no one knows who built the building or who commissioned the building to be built, almost as if an outside force created the building, like the devil came to town and was like, yeah, let's build a church. Also, on the front door of the building there is a note that makes it very clear that there are no ghosts inside, which is super sus. Like where I live, there's no note about ghosts because it's just a given. We know there's no ghosts. This place uses the used car salesman approach to convincing people. Yeah, that rickety noise in the back? Oh, that's just something the car makes. It's an added feature. The residence is haunted by the ghost of a young woman who killed herself by hanging during the communist war in China. Some say she did this because her husband was killed at war, and others say she was trying to avoid capture. At number 7, we have the Shanghai tunnels in Portland, USA. A Shanghai tunnel sounds like a place where you go to bet on horse racing and eat the best fried rice you've ever had in your life. But it actually used to be the epicenter for human trafficking in the United States. Located in Portland, Oregon, the tunnels are now run down and unused. Back in the 19th century, people walking through these tunnels would often be kidnapped and then sold overseas into slave labor. Some bars above these tunnels had trap doors in them, which they would use to take drunk people, slip them down into the tunnels where they would never be seen again. A lot of people died in these tunnels before they were sold off into slavery. Now it's said that their angry ghosts walk the halls. Screaming, banging, and even weeping can be heard when you pass through these tunnels. At number 6, we have La Chateau de Brisac, France. We are heading all over the world with this list, and now we're heading to a place that has a long, rich history, France. It makes sense to waltz right into a castle. Besides being one of the most glorious buildings in all of France, an exciting reason to visit this place is the spectral tourist attraction. Back during the reign of King Charles VII, he was married to a beautiful woman who he unfortunately found out was cheating on him. He wasn't too happy with this, so he divorced her, and that was that. I'm just kidding. It was the 1400s. He also had her killed for insulting his honor. That's how they did things back then. When her life ended, she was wearing a green dress. Now it's said you can see the ghost of a woman in a green dress walking the halls, moaning for her lost love. At number 5, we have Morgan House, Kalimpong, India. The estate formerly owned by the Morgans has a rather dark past. The house was lived in by Baron George Morgan and his wife back in the 1930s. Apparently Mr. Morgan would spend a lot of his free time torturing his wife, with them being being in India and his wife having nowhere to go, she eventually fell into a depression. Not long after that, she died. The two never had any kids, and after Mr. Morgan died, the Indian government took control of the property. It has now been spruced up into a nice hotel, but the terrors of this building's past haven't been washed away. Mrs. Morgan is free from her husband and has no interest in leaving her home. Many patrons of the hotel say they have heard her high heels walking along the wooden floors. At number 4 we have Casa Loma, Toronto, Canada. The most famously haunted place in all of Toronto. It's literally a massive castle that is a 10-minute drive from the world famous CN Tower. It's strange having a massive stone castle built in the early 20th century so close to the downtown core, but that's probably why it's so haunted. All the ghosts want to gather there because it feels like home. One of the most haunted areas of the castle are the secret underground tunnels which connect different sections of the property. There have been reports of a ghostly miner who might have died digging the tunnels and a lady in a white dress. Also, the castle's former owner, Lady Mary Pellet, has been seen all throughout the building. Some people say they've tried to take a picture of her when she's walking through, and she will use her ghostly powers to turn off your camera. Sounds like she's not very photogenic. If you want to give yourself an extra fright, you should come check out the castle in October when they turn the whole thing into a massive haunted house. I've been, it's a great time. At number 3 we have the Hill of Crosses in Lithuania. The look of this place will make you say, oh yeah, there are for sure some ghosts in here. This hill has been the site of rebellion, respect, and remembering the dead for the past 500 years. People have come here to place crosses as a way to pay good fortune to those who died fighting for the freedom of Lithuania. This practice has made it a safe haven for spirits to walk through, and there have been reports of seances performed there trying to contact these dead heroes. There are currently over 100,000 crosses piled up on this hill. Back in the Soviet reign, they tried to destroy this holy landmark 3 times. Three times. But the Lithuanian people stood strong and came back to rebuild it every time. That's a pretty awesome story of solidarity. I know why ghosts want to hang out here. They're like, I know my home will be safe forever. At number 2 we have Cemetery Number 1 in New Orleans, USA. This place has been nicknamed the Haunted City because it is literally filled with so many graves that you could fill a small theater. There are over 700 graves at this site. You pack that many people into one spot and you are guaranteed some strange spirits walking around. On Halloween it must be like a massive party in there. It would be a giant ghost rave with the coolest people from the last 200 years. The grave that gets the most attention is that of former voodoo priestess Marie Laveau. It said she had the power to influence spirits, and now even in death her ghost can gain strength from the graveyard and get the phantoms to do her bidding. I mean, that's a good skill to have after you're dead. You're like, oh you guys, you work for me, that's how this is gonna work. And for the number 1 spot we have the Rose Hall in Montego Bay, Jamaica. A beautiful mansion that used to be the home of the Palmers back in the 19th century. The two were a loving couple, or that's what the public thought. Mr. Palmer died one day of suspicious causes, but foul play was inconclusive. Annie Palmer took control of the property, and people weren't too suspicious until her 2 following husbands and her parents died, all without warning. Now things are getting a little suspicious. The urban legend of Annie Palmer is that she was a witch and she would use dark magic to kill her victims. It's said that her evil spirit still inhabits the Rose Hall. A witch ghost sounds pretty serious, especially one that has killed people. That's not something you want to disturb for your own entertainment, right? Well, you totally can. You can take tours of the building which highlight all the legends surrounding the witch of the Rose Hall. And if you really want to bring some bad mojo into your life, you can take part in a seance to communicate with the spirit of Annie Palmer. I think the ghost of a murderous witch isn't something I would want to hang out with.
Coming in number 10 we have the Hiroshima Haunted Peace Memorial. No one has ever forgotten the Hiroshima and Nagasaki incident in which the atomic bomb destroyed the lives of around 140,000 people. The attack took place at the Hiroshima Professional Industrial Promotion Hall, which is now changed to the Hiroshima Peace Memorial. Now 75 years later, the survivors of the faithful and historic day are old and their stories are fading through the sands of time. The memorial, which is a popular attraction to pay respects and learn about, the devastation that the atomic bomb caused, which is absolutely insane that something like that actually took place. Well, it caused the place to be extremely arid. The place has been claimed to be haunted as the people nearby have heard uncanny videos near the dome. Not only this, but there have been numerous incidents of electronic voice phenomena where you can actually hear the atomic bomb exploding itself. Number 9, Eastern State Penitentiary, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The castle-like Eastern State Penitentiary took solitary confinement to whole new levels when it was built in 1829. Prisoners lived alone, exercised alone, and ate alone. When inmates were left in a cell, a guard would cover his head with a hood so he wouldn't be seen. The prison had to abandon its solitary confinement system due to overcrowding from 1913 until it was closed in 1970. Although the forms of punishment did not get any less severe, I mean, chaining an inmate's tongue to his wrists, that's just one example, a true story. The site's one of most haunted places in America right now. Well, it welcomes thousands of visitors every year, both for its museums and annual Terror Behind the Wall celebration, which features 6 haunted attractions within the prison walls for Halloween. I mean, when you talk about an attraction inside of a prison, no thanks. Well, it was reported paranormal happenings have included dismembered laughter, shadowy figures, and pacing of footsteps. Sorry, I thought I was hearing footsteps behind me right now. Okay, I'm pretty freaked out with this one, so let's move on to the next one. So next up, number 8, we have House of the Seven Gables, Salem, Massachusetts. Now, this house did not steal its name from the classic novel. In fact, it inspired the novel itself. Salem is known for its history of the famous witch trials, and that's where Sabrina Spellman lived. But it happens to be the birthplace of Nathaniel Hawthorne, who used this 17th century house as inspiration for his famous 1851 novel, The House of the Seven Gables. Aside from its beautiful yet spooky facade, the house is surrounded by paranormal activity and ghost sightings, all based on personal experiences of staff. Every October, the house offers spooky tours as well as weekly performances of 2 plays, The Legacy of the Hanging Judge and Spirit of the Gables. Would you guys see a play in a haunted town's haunted house? Coming in hot at number 7 on this list, the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park. If you've read or seen The Shining, you know the feeling of this often snowbound hotel. It's the location Stephen King based his Overlook Hotel upon. It may not look like the film unless you watch the 1990s made-for-TV movie version, which, yeah, I don't think anyone has. I mean, just walking to your room can drain you. So one stiff drink might have you seeing ghosts, or a couple kids chanting, "Red rum, red rum." Number 6, we're bringing you Red Onion Saloon, Skagway, Alaska. Established in 1898 as a brothel for miners during the Klondike Gold Rush, Alaska's Red Onion Saloon, it had a feature that set it apart from other bordellos. It used dolls to help run its business, so always a good sign, right? Well, every day 10 dolls would be placed on the bar downstairs, each one representing one of the ladies working in the upstairs room. A customer would choose one of the dolls, at which point it would lay down on the bar to indicate that particular workers were occupied. When the customers came back downstairs, the doll would be returned to her sitting position to let other potential clients know that she was available. Well, fast forward to 2019, when the Red Onion Saloon still operates as a bar and restaurant, yet the dolls are still on display, and it offers tours of the upstairs rooms, which are preserved as sort of like a mix-shaped brothel museum. As if these dolls weren't creepy enough, there were reports of Lydia, a former madame of a brothel, haunting the site, complete with cold spots and lingering spells of perfume rafting through the walls. I mean, all creepiness aside, I'm more curious about how this place got named Red Onion. I mean, they could have came up with any other name. Well, let me know what you guys would call this in the comment section below. Give me a name. Alright, we're halfway on this list. Number 5, we got R.M.S. Queen Mary in Long Beach, California. This retired ocean liner sailed the Atlantic Ocean from 1936 to 1967. During the first 3 years at sea, the Queen Mary carried Hollywood celebrities like Elizabeth Taylor. Her days as a luxurious ship were short-lived. In 1939, she was stripped of her amenities and began her second life as a gray ghost, a World War II troop ship. At the conclusion of the war, she was restored to her former glory and traversed the Atlantic for nearly 2 more decades. On Halloween 1967, the Queen Mary departed on her last cruise, eventually docking in Long Beach, California, her final resting place. The ship is reportedly haunted by the spirits of those who died aboard, such as the young sailor who was crushed to death by a door in the engine room and a crew member who was murdered in cabin B340. Number 4, Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast in Fall River. So this location came up on nearly every search on our quest to find this top 10 list for you guys. Well, you've likely heard of the children's rhyme, Lizzie Borden took an axe, gave it to her mother 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41. Well, you can not only visit the scene of that famous 1892 double homicide, you can also sleep at the Borden's home, eat their last meal, Johnny cakes, a thick cornmeal pancakes and eggs, in case you were wondering, and spend the last nights in the bedroom where the bodies of Lizzie's stepmother Abigail was found. Someone who stayed there said, "I can attest, this home painstakingly furnished to look exactly as it did on the morning of the murders. Well, that will creep you right out." Better though, the 175-year-old property hosts up to 20 overnight guests, in which some of them, for some reason, it's a tradition when you go to this place, they will actually whip out a Ouija board. I mean, I'm not down for Ouija, that is a real life situation that can happen, and let alone whipping out a Ouija board in a haunted place. Finally, down to number 3 on this list, we have Crescent Hotel, Erica Springs, Arkansas. Since its construction in 1886, the Crescent Hotel has served several purposes: luxury resorts, conservatory for young women, junior college, but the strangest mark on its history came in 1937 when it got a new owner, Norman G. Baker. Baker was a millionaire inventor who decided to pose as a doctor despite having no medical training, and turned the hotel into a hospital that can cure cancer. Well, he was eventually found out and he was ran out of town, although reports say that his spirits found its way back to the site and found some otherworldly company too. The now operating Crescent Hotel is said to be haunted by at least 8 ghosts, ranging from a 5-year-old girl to a bearded man wearing Victorian clothing. 1 ghost is enough for me, never mind 8 of them, and children ghosts, I think those are the absolute scariest kind. Number 2 on this list, Heaven's Gate mass suicide site in Rancho Santa Fe. I mean, when you have the word suicide site, yeah, no thanks, not for this brown guy. The golf course-strewn San Diego suburb of Rancho Santa Fe regularly makes the most expensive zip codes in the USA. So it came a stunner in 1997 when the world learned it was the home to Heaven's Gate, a cult whose 39 members drank poisoned Kool-Aid as the Hale-Bopp comet passed Earth, believing that aliens behind the comet would rupture their souls to heaven. Yeah, really weird. I'm not making this stuff up. Their bodies were found dressing in black sweatshirts and sweatpants, Nike sneakers, faces covered with purple cloth, and carrying $5.75 in one pocket. A toll of people speculated to catch a ride on the comet. And number 1, we have TRANS-ALLEGHENY Lunatic Asylum, Western West Virginia. This foreboding asylum began construction in 1858 and opened to patients in 1864. The massive structure was designed by architect Richard Andrews to maximize sunlight and fresh air. It was believed that the building itself would serve as a healing environment. It was designed for 250 people housed and 2,400 patients in crowded conditions. I mean, that's a pretty big range, going from 250 to 2,400. Patients were physically restrained and often given inhumane treatments such as the electroshock therapy and lobotomies, which was very popular back in the day. After more than a century in operation, the facility was forced to close in 1994, which, when you think about it, wasn't too long ago, within the last 30 years. And it was due to the reforms in mental health and treatment and the deterioration of the building. Hundreds of patients died during the asylum tenure, and scores of guests and ghost hunters have claimed they're seeing shadowy figures roaming around the facility.
At number 10, we have Salem, Massachusetts, USA, a town revered by the occult and has a dark enough history to make any horror fan squeal with glee. Salem, Massachusetts was the home of the 1692 Salem witch trials. This is where a massive witch hunt led to the hanging of 19 people who were falsely accused of using witchcraft. There are several spots around the town that give off an extremely creepy vibe and have reported hauntings, but the most notorious place is the former home of Sheriff George Corwin. He was the man responsible for spearheading the hunting and capturing of these witches. Not only that, but the people that were captured, he would take them into his basement and then he would torture these people until they confessed to their crimes. Now his ghost and the ghosts of several other people who were tortured by him haunt the Joshua Ward House, which is the building that sits on the land that the sheriff's house used to be on.
At number 9, HIMURO Mansion, the grisly murders just located outside of Tokyo. HIMURO Mansion is believed to be one of the airiest places in Japan. This mansion have witnessed some of the the most bizarre activities like cult practices and gruesome murders. According to the local lore, the family in this mansion practiced the strangling ritual, which is called Shinto, and this is to seal off bad karma on Earth every 50 years. But the ritual got tainted as a lover once saved his maiden from being sacrificed. After this, the master killed everyone in the family and then took his own life. The ghost of the family member still lingers in the mansion and tries to attract people so as to complete the taintful ritual. Since then, numerous have emerged of odd occurrences happening in and around the house. Blood splatters appear on the walls. Photographs taken of particular window reveals the image of a ghostly girl, and perhaps most disturbingly, the dead bodies of which would be explorers, well, they have allegedly been found on the property with rope marks around their wrists. And I'm not sure how much I believe these reports, but even so, not a happy place, the HIMURO mansion. And here's an even crazier plot twist of the story. Many people question if the house even exists. In 2002, Temco released a survival horror video game called Fatal Frame, which was for the PlayStation 2 in the US. Players controlled a young woman named Miko Hinasuki, where she searched the haunted mansion for her missing brother Mafuyu. The mansion, of course, was the HIMURO mansion, and according to the game's opening screen, it was based on a true story. Up next, number 8, Round Schoolhouse, which is a creepy building. Scary apparitions, noisy ghosts, floating lights, irregular shapes, abandoned vehicles, every paranormal activity in the book have been rumored to have happened at the Round Schoolhouse in Hokkaido. The school was built in a distinctive round shape in 1906 and run like an elementary school. However, it shut down in the 1970s, and since then it's been abandoned. Soon after, these stories of paranormal sightings started coming in, and several paranormal enthusiasts made a beeline to check out these stories. Many of them came back with troubling stories of things they saw and heard, and it is said that a few of them returned raving mad and talked incoherently. Perhaps the first report of paranormal activity at the school was an instance of a little girl who was spirited away right in front of her classmates. According to the legend, searches for the missing girl turned up nothing from the police. After the closure, more rumors spread. Coming in hot at number 7 on this list, the old Inaki tunnel in the spot of a gruesome murder, and it's located deep within the mountains of Fukuoka. In December of 1988, the charred remains of a man aged 20 years old was found within this mountain's tunnel. The perpetrators of this gruesome act were reported to be a group of teenage boys. The area also has a history that goes back over 1,000 years as a training ground for the esoteric Buddhist practitioners who claim the area to be a spiritual hotspot of lost souls. These claims were later backed by modern spiritualists who visited the mountains area in the aim of recording a television special, but promptly refused to go further due to the foreboding spiritual atmosphere. The tunnel itself has been sealed off with concrete blocks, but an opening in the top of the tunnel still allows entry for anyone foolish enough to climb down. Well, this tunnel is no longer in use, and it's far off from a beaten path, meaning no assistance would be able to reach you if you were in an emergency situation. Number 6, we're bringing you one of the Bonden Islands in the Pacific Ocean, far south of the Japanese mainland. Iwojima Island has forever been ingrained in the culture consciousness as a historic battlefield in World War II. However, its significance doesn't stop there, as it was the home to Mount Surbachi, a 161 meter high volcano, and it's been listed as one of the most dangerous active volcano in the world according to the University of Manchester. It is said that there is a chance of this volcano erupting sometime in the next 100 years, which would in turn lead to huge 25-meter high tsunami waves hitting the coast of both China and Japan, leading to a potential death toll in the millions. The ghost stories of Iwojima are not surprisingly related to the 40-day battle waged on the island, in which many thousands of soldiers on both the US and the Japanese side lost their lives. Okay, we're halfway there. Number 5, we've got Okikiwa, well, the Shrieking Banshee. Within the Himeji Castle is an old well with a very intriguing tale of love and tragedy. It is one of the most haunted places in Japan, as it's where a ghost appears at night and screams. The ghost is the spirit of Okiku, a young girl who served the samurai Aoyama at Hessen. Aoyama loved Akiku, but his love was not reciprocated in what could be termed as harassment today. He hid hid a valuable article and blamed it on Okiku. He offered not to punish her if she became his lover, but Okiku wasn't gonna have any of it. She refused to accept it. In a fit of rage, Aoyama threw her in the well, killing her. This is why she can still be heard wailing in silence of the night, just screaming over and over again in the well. Number 4, Camp Hansen. The lone soldier World War II created a lot of destruction in Japan and left behind many dead soldiers. One such place which has witnessed this is Camp Hansen in Okinawa. The camp is a United States Marine Corps base and supports over 6,000 Marines. It is said that a lone soldier appears in a blood-stained World War fatigues and asks for cigarettes from those nearby. This even led to the closing of the Gate 3 where the soldier's ghost has been sighted, and because of this, it is counted among the most haunted places in Japan. And next up, number 3 on this list of places that you should not visit. And we're talking about ZOSHIGAYA Cemetery, in a place where people are unwilling to visit at any point of the day. Some people have claimed to witness faces and white hands appearing from the trees. 3 people have committed suicide at this place, and it is believed that their souls remain there and they terrify lone wanderers. ZOSHIGAYA Cemetery is counted in as one of the most haunted places in Tokyo. Number 2, we have the Labyrinth, the scary hospital. If you're looking for a haunted house attraction in Japan, but you want something more exciting than the Houston Bosch, then head to Fuji-Q Highland Theme Park. The haunted house at the theme park is one of the best in the country and will truly leave you shook. The house is based on a hospital theme, and it is inspired by a real hospital at the base of Mount Fuji, where a hospital harvested body organs and they take it from unwitting patients. It is said that these patients come back to haunt the doctors, and it is in the presence of the labyrinth. It's 900 meters of pure gore, horror, and tricks that will leave you wondering if this is just an attraction or if this house is really haunted. I'll leave that one up to you guys. Number 1 on this list, we're talking about AOKIGAHARA Forest, in infamous both inside Japan and internationally. This place receives the moniker of Suicide Forest due to abnormally high numbers of suicide confirmed within. Furthermore, this forest is supposedly the second most popular place in the world to commit suicide in, only surpassed by the Golden Gate Bridge, which is absolutely insane. Didn't know that fact until doing the research for this video. The popularity of the forest as a suicide spot has led to signs urging those who enter to reconsider and to seek help. Suicides here are so frequent, in fact, that police and volunteers conduct monthly searches for bodies that have chosen the forest for their final moments. Despite their best efforts to find and remove the remains, the chance of encountering a corpse, on a hike is very likely. Within 35 square kilometers of wilderness at northwest base of Mount Fuji, the area is undoubtedly a beautiful landscape, but it has been proven to be the final stop to many souls.